to infinity and beyond.
Roger and James here from DisKingdom.com. In this episode, we're going to kind of do a little bit of brainstorming, a little bit of fantasy gaming at this point, and kind of talk really about Disney kind of launching a new like MMO style kind of game. Kind of similar to what with Marvel, they've got Marvel Heroes Omega. Star Wars, they have got Star Wars: The Old Republic, and there's a couple of different like mobile games as well. But with Disney, there's nothing really on the market at the minute. There's no like what I would call like a service game where it's continuously running new updates, new content, and kind of what it could be and what maybe they should do, because it definitely feels like it's a gap in the market that Disney haven't really kind of gone into, whether or not they don't feel their characters go in it. Personally, they probably would look at this and go, well, we want it as a mobile game rather than a console or something. But it feels like there's a massive gaping hole in the console thing for an MMO style free-to-play thing with new characters, that you can tie in with, because in some ways I look back and think of like, Disney Infinity as that, like, it was like almost like it was like the first start of an MMO style service game of new content, constant things happening. But because they were so focused on physical products, they kind of got distracted by all that. Whereas, like, we've seen before, like with Little Big Planet, where they've had little content, they've had new costumes and stuff arriving all the time. They had that Disney Universe, which they started adding different costumes. They've been toying with this stuff, but I can't help but think right now that there's a big gaping hole for some kind of console PC / game that's kind of missing that aspect.
Yeah, and I think what I was thinking in regards to this would be something in the style of Disney Universe, kind of a catch-all game, more with like a mini game focus, but more actiony than say puzzles. And I think Disney Universe actually had a pretty good framework for it. Unfortunately, that game came out quite some time ago. It wasn't announced as a re-release in their recent batch of surprise Xbox 360 games popping back up. But there was a good framework there. There's a built-in DLC model, like, say there's a movie coming out, you could just, all right, here are some costumes for your characters. It'll be $1 or $2 a piece, and they come maybe with their own special move sets. Like, there was a new Pirates of the Caribbean movie, so they add in Captain Salazar, and so you can have him, and he might have some special like phase abilities or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's that weird thing, because it's that weird thing. Like, I keep looking at like the Disney Infinity toy box of something like a game like that. It's completely digital, kind of like in that like Lego Worlds kind of thing of let all the Disney characters mash up. Forget about the Marvel and the Star Wars. Just push that completely to the side. Don't, because it just messes up the branding, the lawyers, and all the rest of it. Just purely make it Disney. Mix up the characters a little bit. Whether or not you set it in a Disney theme park, and you go, and each time you go on a new ride or a new attraction, there's like a built-in little mini game and a platform. Because I think this has to be aimed primarily at kids. And I think that's the trouble for Disney, is that they can't cut this whole like loot box craze, and it's a very difficult thing for parents to buy in on. And if it's a bit too predatorial, it won't work. But there does seem to be a gaping hole for some kind of system like this.
What would be kind of interesting is if maybe you have an avatar character, maybe they're in a costume or something unique to the character, so each person feels they're in there, and you walk down Disney World or Disneyland Main Street, and the shops on the side, rather than being shops, each of them is like a mini game, and maybe the mini games rotate through, so you might have the video arcade where they occasionally show the old shorts from the 1940s and 50s. There's one you can just walk into on Main Street, and they're just showing them all the time. So you have that, and then right now they're doing the live action Lion King movie or something. So they have a thing, and you walk in there and you play a little Lion King level. You walk out, you go down Main Street, and you could even implement kind of that toy box thing where users create levels, and then you walk into a store and a random user level pops up. They kind of played a little with that in Disney Infinity 3.0. They had that arcade that you could, in theory, go into and just be randomly matched up with someone and play a 4-player game. Unfortunately, it never really works properly. It had that issue with the launch week where it reset all your progress, and then after I was like, I'm not messing with this. I'm not going anywhere near anything that has a history of erasing my progress. So
yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like there is a massive hole, but like I said, I think the funding point of it is very difficult because they can't go full loot box. Whether or not they're going around and go, right, okay, we have got a Coco. You can buy a Coco starter pack, which comes not, and I'm talking digital only, where it's
of course.
You get the characters and it's a flat up fee for that, and that's the only way you can get it because you're going to have to fund this game, and whether or not it's a $50-$60 upfront purchase to make it. I don't know if Disney are going to be into this. They've played with this in the past. They've done games, Rush that we mentioned, for Connect. We've had Disney Universe, we've had, they've mixed their stuff together, and it just feels like there's an opportunity to do something like this. Whether or not, even Lego Worlds, even if they started adding in Disney characters into that as minifigures, something to kind of connect up, because, there's just this massive gaping hole in their, console world. And I don't know, it just feels like we know that the technology's there now and people are playing these kind of things, and they also have to offer something for a younger generation, because not every single game needs to be for teenagers and adults.
In fact, you could make a very good argument that they shouldn't all be for teenagers and adults, that there's a very good reason to continue making sure that you've got young kids, middle school kids, teenagers, etc. One thing that I was thinking of that kind of occurred to me while you're talking about loot crates is, instead of a loot crate as we traditionally think of it, the Overwatch style, maybe they could do the mystery pin style, like you get at the parks, where you get the pin box, but the pins are themed, so you're getting the Haunted Mansion pins, you're getting the Star Wars pins, although we would keep it just to the Disney stuff. You get to, and so you still got the loot box, but at least it's restricted to a specific set. Also, maybe
or just buy a character,
or literally just buy, buy a pin,
$1 or something like that, and you get Elsa or something like that.
Well, I would say do both. You've got the characters are straight purchases, Elsa, Anna, Olaf, if you want to do Frozen, but then maybe there are accessories for the characters, which might come out of these pin packs or whatever. One thing they could also do, which might be a bit more tricky, and it would be getting back into Disney Infinity territory, would be if you're at the actual physical park, you could buy a physical pin, which would also have a digital code. Now, it wouldn't be a unique pin, like this is the only way to get that. You could still buy it just digitally if you wanted, but it'd be a cool thing to be like, I'm at the park, I have the pin, and I have the pin in the game.
I mean, it's I think, like we said before, looking at it now, I think the trouble is they got so stuck on the physical version that they have done this stuff in the past and it worked, but they've also had so many different MMO, ToonTown, all these different PC ones which fell to pieces. And the trouble is, Disney have not got the best history for keeping content up. You can invest a lot of money in one of these online games and they just pull the plug. And like that, I mean, literally only yesterday I was reading, they pulled the plug on at least half a dozen mobile games on the PC like that. And this is where their problem comes in. They've got a tendency to pull the plug. But if they've got a strong console basics, then there's at least a core game. At least like now, if we fire up Disney Infinity, we still can still do stuff. We fire up Universe, there's still a story mode to it. It just feels like there is a gaping hole in the market.
Yeah, and the real trick, the thing we haven't even really touched on is, what would the gameplay be like? What kind of games? And yeah, they could do a straight up just collection of mini games. You're going to pop in over here and it's going to be, maybe a top-down action RPG, Diablo-esque, but, Disneyfied. And then maybe you pop across the street and it's a side-scroller.
Yeah.
But you need to know what you're playing before you get into it, because if you're not a fan of side scrollers, then you're not going to have fun doing that.
I think that's the difference. There's so much different stuff. I mean, whether or not I wouldn't be at all surprised if something is being worked on, because it makes sense from the point of view of doing it. The only problem is the mobile market is where they sort of seem to have focused all that, and the console market has definitely become like, kids aren't playing consoles, so we're only going to give tablet stuff, and that is where the main concern for me. It does feel like the tide is kids are playing consoles. I think the Switch seems to be bringing it back to kids, but the Xbox One X and PlayStation 4s, they're all being aimed at adults and teenagers, and the days of just where an old console used to be for kids, that's not the case anymore. These are now what kids get handed to, and I think that's the problem.
Well, that is a huge problem, and of course, if you're a company like Disney or Activision or EA, you're looking at this and going, I can invest multiple hundreds of millions of dollars into a AAA console game, and I'll get X amount back, but people aren't buying DLC anymore. They expect the map packs for free. Okay, loot crates are kind of bringing it back and proving to be a successful business model, but I could also invest a couple $100,000 on games for this and get millions of dollars back, because people are just so used to, all right, well, I'm going to load up Disney Magic Kingdoms right now. I'm going to buy Carpet and Carpet and Iago, and that's $10 right there. And if 1,000 people do that, then that's $10,000. So, that's no effort on their part.
I think that's the trouble. Is it's in some ways it allows for a little bit more lazy. When you get something like Zoom that's made $1 billion, it's very hard to kind of go, Disney Infinity cost us this much, but Zoom cost us this much, and look how much difference it made. It's going to be interesting to see what goes on there. But we'd love to know what you guys think. What do you think could be? What do you think's missing? What would you like to see Disney kind of do with like a new style kind of open service kind of game? We'd love to know your thoughts. Comment below. James, where can they find you?
If I'm a heroiclegacy.com.
And on that note, guys, thank you very much for watching. We shall see you guys soon. Laters.
Later.